Hey folks, Tara here with a Wifey Wake Up No Makeup podcast. And I asked my husband for some inspiration today on what I should talk about. And he asked me, there's my kitty, play with my plant in the background. There's some good old entertainment there. I asked him for his thoughts on what he thought I should talk about today. And he started by asking me what I thought of the class that he taught last night, what I got from it. And I said, it wasn't so much the content, what I got out of it is I said, I really enjoyed, the students being really into your teaching and each one in their very unique ways. And also, I could clearly tell it had been a while since he had taught last, and I could tell afterwards that he was just stoked, that it was something that he just truly, truly enjoyed. And I said, that's what I got out of it. And so he encouraged me to talk about that today. And I think the reason why is because we've been married nearly 25 years now. We've been together for 25 years. And it's so important to keep that feeling of he's still amazing. He's still, and not only still, but he's more amazing. I just look up to him and I love him. There's a lot of talk out there, especially in the red pill space, about hypergamy and the kind of talk down about women in that, why it depends on who you're listening to. But for those who are not into that realm, just real quick, hypergamy, some people say hypergamy, is the idea of marrying up. So when someone is seeking a romantic partner of higher social, economic, or status level than themselves. Now, back in the day, that was so normal. Women and families would look to marry up, particularly the woman to the man, because depending if there was a dowry, it depended on how that was structured. Different cultures structured that differently. But in a lot of cases where there wasn't, especially in our recent history, the woman is really relying on the man to be able to provide and protect. And it's just the way things are. People get so worked up about things, and it's just so matter of fact that a woman, if you're going to have a family, which we can see the results these days, why so many people are not having very many kids, if any, because of all the social pressures for the women. I'm going off on tangents. I'm trying not to, but all this just background, right? For those of you who are not into this as much, but there's so much social pressure on women that you have to get your degrees, you have to get your education and get your foot in the door and have your career going before you have kids. And so that gives you a very small time frame to, in a healthy fashion, have kids. And so that is why in a more traditional structure and following your instincts as well, that a young woman would be looking for a man, not just a young man, typically someone several years older, more established, and ideally in a better socioeconomic realm than she is in. So a little background on hypergamy. So that automatically sets you up for finding a man that you just look up to and you're in awe of. He likely has a better education, has more experience in life, just knows more about life. And that was certainly my case. There's so many things that I did and do look up to my husband for, that he's always insightful. He has so much more life experience, his relational experiences. And I think that's absolutely actually so essential for marriage relationships, because for the woman to constantly always be looking up to her husband, you remain in that state of a certain respect, awe, and simply looking up. Then you're not looking to in another direction, looking for someone that you can look up to. Okay. It's a natural draw, and I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of. It's just how we are built. Now, there are a couple of things to be mindful of. So that hypergamy is a natural state of being. I don't think there's any shame in that. But the thing is how do we preserve that state of being? Because I think it takes a deliberate effort, particularly in today's day and age, that you continually look up to your husband, because we are many of us grew up in environment, maybe not many of us, but it kind of seems like it just by the results, that many of us women have grown up in environments where you would tear down the man. And it doesn't take much, just think of the sitcoms that we watched when we were growing up. So Married with Children, was the Tim the Toolman Taylor, what was the name of that show? All sorts of programs like that where the dad was always picked on. So I'm going to share a little story here to illustrate this point. I recently had heard about, or it was explained to me what bullfighting is. I guess I knew in passing. So Spanish bullfighting, right, where they're in an arena, and Spanish bullfighting is a traditional spectacle deeply woven into Spanish culture. Okay, I'm giving you a definition here. It's not just a sport, it's theater, it's ritual and drama, where man meets beast in a stylized dance. The event is divided into 3 acts, or tercios, and features a matador, the star. Matador actually means killer, and banderillos, who are assistants, and the often misunderstood picador. It's the picador that I really want to focus on. So there's 3 stages. And the goal is, the objective of a Spanish bullfight, the ultimate goal isn't just to kill the bull, it's to demonstrate mastery over death. Now, ladies, if any of you are just like weirding out on me, please don't go away. I have a great point here. And if you're feeling all the feels, that's good. I want you to feel the feels, okay? So the ultimate goal isn't just to kill the bull, it's to demonstrate mastery over death through grace and bravery. So remember, it's a dance, it's a performance. The bull represents chaos, danger, raw animal power. I mean, you can imagine this huge beast of a bull. The matador's role is to tame that force, not through brute strength, mind you, but through elegance, style, and nerve. Okay? So it's not just a straight out killing of the bull, right? They're doing a performance, they're doing a dance. It's an objective of they want to get the horse as close to the bull as possible, to be in danger but not get hurt. And so that's part of the performance, right? So many of us don't actually know, if you even know, I didn't know these details until I looked them up. I thought it was interesting. The role of the picador. Now, picar means to prick, to jab, to kind of stab in a way. And so the picador is on a horse, and they have a lance that they use to picar, to prick at the bull. Now, the objective is that they want to prick at the bull just enough to so he can't move as elegantly, as fiercely as the bull would naturally move. But also, the objective is not to incapacitate the bull, because once it's time for the matador to come out and play his role, the bull has to still have some fight in him, so that it's not just a dull, it has to be a spectacular performance all the way through. Now, you're weirded out? Good, because that's the point here, is that picador, we as women, so many of us were taught to be that picador that is constantly picking and pricking and jabbing at men, but to the point where if they're the bull, they're the mighty, beautiful bull that we were first impressed with, we can no longer be impressed by them because they can no longer move like they did. They can no longer charge, not just for you, but for anyone in the environment. And soon, after time, each bull it depends on where you've lanced him and how much or how often he's lost his fight. He's lost his ability to fight. And that's where you get the man who retires to the man cave. He is no longer participating in life. He doesn't have the fight in him. And any fight that he does have in him is to hopefully just go to work and come home and go to his man cave and recuperate, to do the same thing over again, to serve his family. And that is I mean, ladies, I know it may be just a brutal point, but that's the point. It's so hard to listen to that when we think, oh, that poor bull, it's an animal. But when we apply it to life, we really need to take that into consideration. And I'm not pointing the finger. I am saying this from personal experience. Fortunately, I have a husband who is the bull, who charges back pretty readily and says, I don't like that. And so I learned earlier on that how mean that really is. And if you had at all any sympathy for the bull in the story, then you absolutely must have sympathy for the men in the story. So what I want to encourage you to do is, if your husband has already retired to that man cave or is not available, there are ways to reverse this. And it starts with reversing it for you, because what happens is when you pick away, and again, I'm saying you, but that's just this part of our vernacular, right? I'm trying to actually help through this situation. I'm not trying to just point my finger at you. I'm really actually trying to get at the solution. So what happens is, as we start to prick at them over time, not only is it hurting them, but it's chipping away at how we see them as well. So just as you would see in the bull, them being more, the bull being less incapacitated, you have sympathy for the bull, right? But typically for the man in our life, it wouldn't be sympathy. It would be starting to see him as less, right? And seeing him as a with less capacity. And what happens is, when you, in the hypergamous stage, you initially saw him up here looking up to him. As you chip away at him, he starts coming down to here very quickly, actually. And because with the first picado, you are looking down at him. And I say this very bluntly, just to not beat around the bush, to make the point very clear, but also just to be so very clear that is so quickly and easily how it happens. It's just with those first pricks that you take the first big chunks, and especially if he doesn't say anything to you, like, hey, that wasn't nice, I don't like that, please don't say that to me, then you will very readily and quickly be looking down at him. And if he acquiesces to that, he will become more and more silent and more distant. And what will happen is, he will be more and more retired to the man cave, the garage, doing his activities, and not present in your life. And then it feels like, what can I do now? So I encourage you to take action as soon as possible in life. And I think it's never too late. So some ways that I had to relearn this, or to reappreciate, or to even recall these times in life where you can restore that looking up to him, even if you've already started looking down. First of all, just making the decision I need to change this around. I want to change this around because I want to have a man who is present. I want to have a man that, thank God, he's going to work, but not just going through the motions of life, because that's actually really sad, right? We innately, even if you're looking down on him, we innately sense that sadness, whether it's even feeling the sadness for our family that has a dad that's less present. But finding that desire to actually look up to him again, and finding something to do that. And it's going to take deliberate effort to switch that around. And so, for example, that's where the example from my husband teaching class last night comes into play, where he didn't know that I was going to attend the class, but I was like, of course I'm going to be there. And he was very pleasantly surprised. In the past, when he was riding expensive motorcycles and going to the track, it was just me being present there for him and being a part of his joy. Again, many teaching scenarios is also in his precision machining business and micromolding. It's on occasion I'll be called out and to see a project that they're working on, and just be a part of, like, you wouldn't believe this. Look at this. This is so amazing and so cool. Absolutely, it would be part of, if he has some kind of award ceremony or getting some kind of accolades, it would be participating in that. And even if, for example, going back to the motorcycle example, which is very expensive, by the way, that's why I'm bringing up this example, is even if part of you is just like, oh, this is so expensive, this takes so much time, is we all need something that lights us up on the side, that we can love and appreciate and experience life through that. So especially if something like that has become a point of contention, I really encourage you to reconsider your attitude about that and really look at it realistically. I mean, obviously, if it's putting you in dire straits, that's another scenario. I'd still encourage you to consider, because dire straits can be a different level for everybody. But I think men really need a place where they can perform and excel, and where they can get that praise from their women. So he might be a hunter, for example, and fills up the freezer with meat and just loves the appreciation from you, or just like, can't wait to make that venison stew this fall. And, of course, be genuine about it. But I'm trying to give many examples. And, for my husband, it was renting a very expensive motorcycle and not racing, going very fast on a professional track, and people just being in awe at what he could do. And there's much more to the story that I'm not going to say on a podcast, maybe with him when we do the John and Tara podcast, but that he got to be in his element, something that was just so him. And I was there. Even I didn't have to be a cheerleader necessarily, but just be there, enjoy the moment with him. So, John, I hope that is some of the message that you wanted to come across. John, would love to hear your comments in the comment section, and anyone else too, especially if you gained insight, have experience in this area, would love to hear from you. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with anyone that comes to mind that you think it could be helpful for, especially. And I'll see you next time, everybody. Take care.